Hi, I'm Steve Yoon. I'm the Vice President of New Media at Harmony Gold. And welcome to San Diego Comic-Con 2020. As you can see, the lines have never been better. We hope that you're home healthy and safe right now. And hopefully by holding this virtual panel at Comic-Con at home, we want to bring a little bit of fun into your day. So let's get started right now.
All right. Hello, my name is Kevin McKeever. I'm Vice President of Marketing here at Harmony Gold for the Robotech franchise. Let's begin with Robotech on streaming platforms. We would like to thank our friends at FilmRise for getting us on Pluto TV. Our friends at Pluto TV are going to have a Robotech streaming marathon with special bonus material not seen in this panel. Tune in to Pluto.tv for more information.
Hi, everybody. My name is Casey Lau. I'm the host of the podcast called The Hyper Room, and I'm here to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Robotech as part of the San Diego Comic-Con at home here in 2020. Today, I have an amazing panel of people from the Robotech universe. I would think so. I've got the head or the creative director slash head man universal mindset of Harmony Gold and Robotech, Tommy Yoon. Tommy, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. All things considered in this crazy world today.
Great. I've also got the president of Toy Nominee, Mr. George Son. George, how you doing?
Doing well. The times couldn't be better, but we're all trying to survive.
Great. And of course, last but not least, president of Icon Heroes, Patrick Wang. Pat, how you doing?
How's it going, guys? Doing safe, doing my part. Would rather be prepping for Anime Expo and San Diego Comic-Con.
Do you always sit around the desk with all your toys like that, Pat?
I sleep with them, always.
Okay, great. Okay, let's start off with Tommy first. This is the 35th anniversary of Robotech, and I think it's an amazing accomplishment and an even number, which is great. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening for this in this year. What did you have planned for this year?
Well, we had a lot planned this year, very many people have been affected just like us in that a lot of these great events like Anime Expo, Comic-Con, and so forth, they've all been canceled. There's been a lot of scrambling to move panels online. We've recorded one actually for Comic-Con. It was under a really tight schedule, so when our panel airs, at about the time this is also going to air, we've actually recorded that back in June. So there's been a lot of changes since then. One of the most interesting ones is with the gradual reopenings of the cities, which is up for a lot of debate right now. Comics have started to slowly ship to stores. And one of our licensees, one of our most important licensees that has been affected by this is Titan Comics. They were affected by the complete shutdown of the direct market industry with what has happened with Diamond Comics and a lot of comic stores being shut down. They've slowly started to baby step into getting some of their comics start to go out there, but they can't do their full slate yet because right now, even in London has been hard hit by COVID-19. They're working on a skeleton crew that has to be staggered because they don't want everybody in their offices at the same time and working remotely as well. And so realistically, Robotech is going to be delayed to the end of the year at the very least. So this has pushed everything back. That said, the Robotech series up until now has gotten a great response. And the writer on the series, Brendan Fletcher, was really grateful to the reception by the fans. He looks forward to working on more Robotech. One of the things that he was proud of doing was that Robotech was originally 3 anime series. One thing he gets to do in comics that wasn't done in animation is he gets to mix things up. He gets to have the characters from one generation of Robotech interact with the others, and then with alternate timelines being introduced into the comic series, he even allows events to happen differently than what fans may remember from the original TV show. And so he's taken us down a very interesting rabbit hole, and he looks forward to continuing that with more stories.
Wow, so exciting. Let's go over to George, because George Son and Toy Nominee are synonymous, I think, with Robotech. I almost think that people ask me, is Toy Nominee owned by Harmony Gold? And I say, no, it's a separate company. And George Son is just a mega fan of the property. George, tell us all, how did you, first of all, what's your earliest memory of the show? Obviously, you were a fan as a kid, probably watching on TV and grew up with it. Let's start there and talk a little bit about the memories you had with Robotech.
Well, first of all, Casey, thanks for the intro. I'm glad to be here with everyone and the fans. You know, I think myself, like all the fans who grew up in the 80s watching Robotech, I still vividly remember trying to run home from after school, try to catch it before, before it started. It was always part of my childhood. And, you know, like since the creation of Toy Nominee, I've always tried to stay true to my passion and all the classic properties I grew up with. And so now that I've had the opportunity to run my own manufacturing company, I went out and just did all the nostalgic properties that I grew up with. So that's why a lot of the properties like Robotech and Speed Racer or Voltron or any of the old classic Hanna-Barbera properties are properties I grew up with. And, you know, that it's to this day, I still believe, I think now 20 years we have been doing Robotech. So it was our very first license when I started the company back in 2000. And there's actually a very funny, interesting story about all that. I had a previous company called Toycom. So we actually, when I first started doing that, those were the days, if you remembered, prior to that, I worked at Toy Biz. And I decided that I wanted just to start my own toy company doing classic properties that I grew up with. And I had a company in Japan that we were selling Toy Biz products to called Yamato. And when I contacted all my customers to let them know that I was quitting Toy Biz and starting my own business, they were all wondering like, oh my God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go out and try to acquire all these classic 80s properties and make toys for them. And one of my accounts or one of my clients was Yamato Toys in Japan. And we became friends and we kept in contact. I started Toycom and he actually helped me acquire the Macross Plus license. We wanted the classic Macross actually. And Big West wanted us to do Macross Plus first. And so I said, okay, fine. We'll start with that. Toycom acquired the license. We started making product. And that's when I think I met Tommy from Harmony Gold. We ultimately got, the funny irony is we got sued by Harmony Gold. We got sued with a cease and desist letter saying, you can't make Macross products because we have the license. And I said, hey, honestly, I wasn't aware of it. I had an associate in Japan assist me on getting the license. Let me get right back to you. So obviously I got back on the phone. I was telling Haraki, the president of Yamato, hey, you know, the license you helped me negotiate, you got to get it to me. I'm being sued here in the US by Harmony Gold. They say that they have the rights. Well, long story short, we ended up settling out of court. The truth was Harmony Gold never had the rights to give it to me outside of Japan. Our license was technically only for Japan. So after we settled that, I basically went back to Haraki and said, hey, you know, we spent all this money, energy, and investment developing this toy line, and now Toycom can't release it. And he goes, well, what am I supposed to do about it? I said, well, you know, you helped me negotiate the deal and the license is still in existence for Japan, but obviously I don't sell toys in Japan, you do. So why don't you take it over? And in all honesty, I wanted out because part of the settlement was that Toycom could never release Macross. I mean, Toycom could never release those products. And so I didn't want to be tied down or have loss in my dreams of never be able to do, you know, those Macross or Robotech toys. So I went ahead and just sold all my shares of the company to Hiraki. And then he took that over. So then that's when Yamato ended up running Toycom USA.
Oh,
and then in 2000, I started Toy Nominee, and I came back to Franco Grama, the president of Harmony Gold, pretty much just pleading and begging him and saying, look, I am truthfully sorry. I am just a fan of your property. I thought I was doing the right thing, and ultimately I understand now through all the legal system. I think a lot of the fans don't really understand, and they really believe that Harmony Gold was just, you know, this evil entity that was preventing all Macross products from ever happening. And that is far from the truth. You know, it's the truth is Harmony Gold does own those rights. They bought it outright from Tatsunoko years ago, and you know, that's just the way it is.
Tommy, why don't you jump in on this a little bit? Yeah, because I think this is, I'm glad you brought this up because I've seen a lot of conversation about this online.
Yeah.
Maybe you can also kind of back up what George is saying on the rights issues of Macross and all these other properties.
Yeah, I should have grown like my evil mustache that I could twirl today, but no, actually what's interesting is when I first met George at when he was running Toycom, this was before I was even involved at Harmony Gold. I was just coming as just a genuine fan, and I was just blown away by the quality of the design of the toys that George was showing off. It was just absolutely incredible work. It was for the first time where I saw the craftsmanship of the toys were approaching that of finished model kits. And I think George was carving out a uber category. And, you know, judging by what collector's value those classic toys have created, I think he succeeded. And then when George was meeting with Frank at his house, this was actually where I met George for the first time. I was the new guy at Harmony Gold at the time, and I was also learning about all the complexities of all these dealings. And it just simply comes down to a business issue is, and this frequently happens, what'll happen is rights get fractured, different aspects of rights are sold around the world. And for North America and many territories outside of Japan, this is license and merchandising category that Harmony Gold has simply acquired. And this is also something that Harmony Gold has had to nail down and secure more clearly because we now have this licensing relationship with Sony and Funimation as well. And but one thing I do have to say about George's credit is he's been amazingly upfront and a straight shooter about the way the business runs. I know fans love to get super passionate. They love to pick sides. They get very polarized. You know, if you don't agree with them, you're you know, a complete nincompoop. But that's just the way fandom is. I've heard Mark Hamill, you know, comment about UPFs, what he calls ultra passionate fans, but you know, it's simply a matter of business. And in fact, we as fans, we want to see some of this Japanese product in the US. It would be, in an ideal circumstance, it would be wonderful if everybody could just come down, sit at the table, and we could all see, you know, great product, transcend different territories. I feel like it would be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
But you know, presently, Harmony Gold's Robotech rights and rights to the original Classic 3 series are pretty, you know, have been at this point affirmed very solidly, and that's why we're able to work with Sony in this way.
And then George, so tell us, what was the first Toy Nominee product, Robotech product that came out? Do you remember? I'm sure you do. Probably right behind you, but
we did do some small little back then we called them morphers. So they were like these little trinky 3-inch, 3.5-inch transformable morphers that would transform, and you pull it back for the motorized motor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I might still have some in the showroom here, but those were the first items. And then we made some 6-inch figures. I don't know if we still have those these days, but yeah, maybe we do. So then we made some figures like this.
Yep, that's right.
And after that, we ended up making the Masterpiece Collection, which we got awarded for best packaging back in, what was it, 1990 or 2002. But these are the Masterpiece books up here with the transformable 155 scale Veritex. But, you know, I ultimately was able to live my dream and make these toys that I grew up with. And, you know, Harmony Gold has been such a great partner and licensor. And I think although they had originally sued me as Toycom, going back and just being honest with them and telling them, hey, look, I didn't mean to do any wrongdoing. It was a real big misunderstanding. And, you know, I was sincere. I gave them a deal memo for a 3-year contract. And we have probably done millions and millions of dollars in sales to this day, and still we continue to renew our agreement with Harmony Gold. So like I said earlier, it's been 20 years that we've done. I think it's the longest franchise that Toy Nominee has been with. I mean, we've been tons of licenses with many other properties and IPs, but the one property that we continue to do year in and year out is Robotech. So I'm very proud to be, you know, part of that and to say that.
Great. Yeah. Pat, your Icon Heroes is like a new licensee, or you haven't had the license for 20 years like Toy Nominee has. Why did you decide to get in on the Robotech craze now? You know, you're a trendsetter there, 35 years in on the brand.
Yeah, we've been around since 2008, but we've been making resin collectible statues, also from a bunch of 80s properties, such as, I think we started off with Masters of the Universe, and then we did Thundercats, and then we moved to DC Comics, Harry Potter, and I think it was at WonderCon last year or a couple years ago, and I think the president of the Robotech fan club, I can't remember his name.
Oh, Guillermo.
Yeah.
Robotech X.
Guillermo.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, Guillermo. So he was by my booth, and he's like, "You guys need to make some Robotech statues." He's like, "No one's really making Robotech statues." You know, of course,
Tommy,
George.
did you send him over there to Pat's booth?
No, the Comic-Con and WonderCon, they're like small petri dishes. Everybody gets to see what each other is working on, and you know, magic happens.
Yeah.
So Guillermo brought Kev over, and then of course Kev is looking at all of our statues, and he's like, "You guys need to make Robotech statues." He's like, "We don't have anybody doing this stuff." So, you know, it just took off from there. We're like, yeah, you know, I remember Robotech, like George. It's one of the shows that I would come home from school and sit in the living room with my brothers and, you know, watch the episodes. So it's something that I grew up with as well. But it's been awesome to kind of get back into that universe and kind of revisit everything. And, you know, Tommy's been great. He's got so much resources and stuff. So, yeah, so we've only been around with Robotech for maybe a year or two. But, you know, we're developing those statues now. We're doing a bunch of little vinyl figures, some pins, just kind of filling holes of stuff that's not really out there.
Okay, I'm sure everybody who's watching this right now is looking and salivating at the things right in front of you right now. So why don't you just go ahead and talk about the products that you have and these exclusives that you're releasing here. Let's start with the black Veritech there. What is that?
So this is actually what's supposed to be our San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. It still is. It's our Comic-Con at Home exclusive. It's a VF1J stealth statue. So it's basically repainted in a black version. And it's got, so our statues are, we call them 142 scale, which is about 14 inches tall. They're resin, they're not articulated, but they have movable heads. So you can turn the heads left and right. And it has 4 posable arms connected by a magnet. You can just pop one off, pop off the other one. So there's 2 left arms, 2 right arms, and a lot of different poses you can make. And for the stealth one, we work closely with Tommy. I mean, I think Tommy and I went back and forth on this for a while, I think, right? With trying to get all the details and stuff. Yeah, so we've also got the standard VF1J Rick and the 1S Roy coming out first. Well, I guess they'll be coming out at the same time, actually. They're actually on the water now, so they'll be here soon. And we've got an exclusive Max that we're doing for Fan Expo in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So they'll have an exclusive version as well. And we got a couple other versions coming out later also.
And what are those two little figurines there of Rick and Minnie?
So these are part of our Icons line, which are 4-inch vinyl figures, non-articulated. We collaborate with various artists. These two are with an artist named Lord Mesa. He's done a lot of art for Arrow, especially, and a lot of other
Arrow,
properties.
the TV show?
Arrow, the TV show, yeah. And so he developed this line for us. He's done some other figures for us. We have Golden Girls, Karate Kid, some other 80s properties also that he's working on for us.
Yeah.
So these are the first two. We got Rick and Minmay, and it's his original art. And we got a couple more characters on the way.
They come separately or packaged together, and how much are they?
They're individually boxed. They're $15.
Okay.
The resin statues are $200, and we have some enamel pins we're working on as well.
Hey, Tommy, I want to ask you about these little figures. Like, they seem to be very stylized. How do you guys work with the licensees to produce like non-anime, style stuff that's specific to the U.S. market?
I think it just comes down to the artistry. We like to have artists express themselves in their individual styles, but at the same time still capture the essence of the original character. In that case, I think the style was very compatible with Robotech in that if you watch some comical episodes from Robotech, you'll see the characters almost devolve into what they call a super deformed style. And so that works out quite well for those characters right there. Like Tony Oliver had mentioned, it looked like a 10-year-old version of himself.
I will say that, having someone like Tommy, who's a huge fan, who also is the one that approves the products that we make, has been so helpful. A lot of other times you deal with people and they're not really fans of the property you're working on. So a lot of times they don't catch the little details with each one, but Tommy catches everything.
George, you've done everything, every size, shape, form, texture, product of Robotech. What is the most interesting or most different thing that you think you made of the thing that you thought, Tommy will never approve this, but he did?
Well, I don't know. I would say, I think one of the most challenging things that we did was probably the alpha and the beta ships, part of our masterpiece collections. That, you probably think it was quite easy. I think doing the Veritex was simpler, only because the transformation process and the number of parts were less. But the alphas were very, very difficult. But Tommy, I gotta ditto what Patrick is saying. Tommy has been essentially a key component in Harmony Gold, being a fan and knowing the property in and out. He's always given positive feedback, whether it's good or it's bad, and he's been true to the true essence of what Robotech is. And I don't think there has been anything we kind of pitched to them and they thought, oh no, that's better not do that, or oh, that's not going to work. They've been very open-minded down there, and they, like I said earlier, they really love the brand. They just want to continue to grow the brand, and by allowing some freedom to the licensees, we've had a lot of versatility to do what we've been able to do, and for the last 20 years produce. Gosh, I think I've done over 100 SKUs. Can't count them all, but you're right. We've done a lot of things. I don't think there is anything that they've ever shot down, but it might be just limited to us going, hey, let's do this, and then we realize, oh my God, it's too difficult to do, or let's try to do this, and then later on we find out there's not enough sales, or as you know, there's all these components in the toy industry that makes a toy, get to market or not. So sometimes we work on things and it never comes to fruition for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's also interesting to have you as a licensee, though. You're a fan, so you're not going to make something like crazy, like the wrong color, or suggest something completely out of left field, right? I think you and Pat are both kind of like grow up, so you know the license, so you're going to create something that the fans want, and you know your user base, that people are going to buy it as well.
Yeah.
George, do you have some new things you want to show us that Toy Nominee is releasing for Robotech this year?
Yes, yes. So we can start out with, well, let's start. Would you like to know, since this is going to be airing on San Diego for Comic-Con, I have this is actually an ad we're running in the San Diego Souvenir book. Okay. Obviously, it has other properties that we are showcasing for exclusives like Naruto. But over here is our Mosvita Cyclones. These were limited edition pieces of 250 piece 8-inch vinyls that we are selling as exclusive, as well as a stealth caliber wing die-cast plane. Now, this is not one of the transformable one, but it's the die-cast line that we've done with caliber wings.
Very cool.
Yeah. So those
how do we get those? How do we buy those?
Well, actually, they're on our shop right now at toynomishop.com.
Okay.
You can go on there and, actually, the stealth Veritech is not available to ship yet until next week, but the Macross and the other items are all in stock now, shipping.
Great, great. It's good to see that you're doing Mosvita stuff. That's kind of my favorite one. I just love the Cyclones so much. They're just so cool. I know everybody loves Macross, but Mosvita is like.
Well, let's talk about Mosvita for a little.
Or sorry, the new generation. Sorry, Tommy. New generation.
Oh, that's okay. The fans understand. It's synonymous. They understand the origins of that series. And I'm the same way as you. I actually watch Robotech backwards because I caught it on the end of its original broadcast, and I saw the end of Mosvita, or the new generation, and I wanted to see what happens next. And then they rewound it back to Macross, and then I was like, "Who are these guys? I want to see what happens to Scott Bernard next."
Yeah.
And
then I finally saw the order of the episodes.
Yeah, well, just to talk a little bit about Mosvita, then I'll move back to Robotech. Well, it's still Robotech, but this is actually in conjunction. We're working with a company in Japan. I mean, not Japan, in Hong Kong, called B25. They've been partners with us now for a couple years in our Acid Rain line, and which has done incredibly well. And then they have acquired the license from Japan via Tatsunoko for Mosvita. And so here are some designs that they're doing for their 2.5-inch collection for Mosvita. So of course the stick, this is only 2.5 inches, and they come with the cycle and the accessories. It's very well designed, in fact. So I'll give you the digital images of this to share with the fans later. But 3 models are planned early part of 2021. So we'll have stick. These are all the accessories where you can put the hands and what have you. This is a mount that holds the motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
Very articulated. Yeah. So the stick is coming out first, and then they're working on a lei, as well as a yellow.
Wow.
So I'll share some of these pictures, but this is all due out early next year, all the way through summer of 2021. So we're excited to, still continue to do some Robotech new mecha, along with our continued success with the Veritechs.
For some of the viewers that don't understand how toys are made, maybe you can talk a little bit about what's the process here for making these new Mosvita figures. Is it have you been working on this for years or a few months, and then it's going to come out in 2021? But talk a little bit about the process from conceptualization to having Tommy involved to actually selling it to the fans.
Sure. So we usually have a good reading of what the fans want. I mean, if you really take a poll, which is sometimes kind of dangerous because you get like 2% of the fan base making 95% of the noise.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be making something that probably won't sell. But at the end of the day, when we have an idea, we'll go ahead and start, the preliminary stages of laying down what sort of price point we want, what sort of, how many we estimate we can sell at that price point. So for example, the Mosvita that I just showed you, we plan to release it next year at about a $50 retail.
Okay.
So we conceptualize, we say to ourselves, okay, at $50, how many do you think we could sell? What is it going to cost what's the R&D, what's the investment, what's the turnaround time? And some of these projects, especially the transformable mecha, can take anywhere between 8 to 10 months of development.
Wow.
So by the time you actually say, oh, this is a great idea, let's start designing it, to going through the process of getting it all approved, and then, possibly just saying, you're looking between, like I said, 8 to 10 months before you even have anything tangible to hold. Now, you may just have a prototype. You may just have, it's not a product that's ready to be sold. But once you have that, you can then take photos of it. Like the prototypes I've shown you here, we haven't actually started tooling these yet. We're about to start tooling. So once we do, tooling takes another 60 to 90 days. And from then we'll get a test shot. We'll have a physical piece actually done in plastic or ABS that we can play with and make some more additional tweaks just to make sure that, it is sturdy enough for mass production. And then we'll start mass production. But mass production could be an additional 60 to 90 days. So there you are, another half a year have passed. Yeah. And, you'll probably get the product out like 15 months to 18 months from beginning to end. Now that's, our turnaround time on something this complicated. Now, if you were just doing action figures, which we are like still doing, like this is Claudia for our action figure line, these are much quicker. Those have a turnaround time between 8 and 10 months from beginning to end. So we can actually
probably works in resin because it's even faster.
Yes.
Yeah, resin's a little faster. Resin's, we're probably looking at about maybe 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But the vinyl figures also are pretty quick too, because we're not dealing with articulation like George's. George is probably dealing with a lot more intricate things. Ours are not articulated, so these vinyl figures are probably about 6 to 8 months also.
So George, how long does it take you to make those action figures?
Well, like I said, that's about 8 to 10 months. We do have Series 2 coming, what I just showed you.
Okay, great.
In fact, here's this picture. This is Series 2 up here, and this is Series 3 coming.
Who's in Series 2?
So in Series 2, we have Lisa Hayes, technically my first girlfriend as a kid. Sorry, maybe that's TMI, but anyway, there's Lisa Hayes, Claudia Grant, there's Henry Gloval, and Ben Dixon, and Rick Hunter in dress uniform.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, so that is, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but this here is Series 1, which we are currently sold out of. And then Series 2 is what should be shipping by the end of the year, before holiday. And then this, originally planned to come out for holiday, is now pushed out to spring 2021, obviously due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But yeah, so that is.
And who's in Series 3 there?
Oh, Series 3, yes. So Series 3, we do have. Oh yes, here we go. Series 3, we have Roy Fokker in dress uniform. Can you see that here?
Yep.
Roy Fokker in dress uniform. We have Ben Dixon in dress uniform. Miria in dress uniform. And then Lisa Hayes with the spacesuit and helmet. And then Max Sterling in a dress uniform.
Okay.
So that's what Series 3, and that'll be out next year.
And how much are those retail for, George?
Now, all the figures, they're 4 inches. They retail for $14.99, but obviously depending on the retailer. So they vary from anywhere from $12.99 to like $18, depending on your retailer.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I do have some new Veritex coming.
Yep, please show us.
We're doing it in vintage packaging. I don't know if the fans remember, but we released this last year for, I believe it was WonderCon. And it was a throwback to our 80s retro packaging. So this is all new art, actually illustrated by Jamie Sullivan, a local artist here in California who did this for us. But it gives you that nostalgic 80s feel. This was a limited edition of 1,000 pieces, but we decided because of that, a lot of the fans were saying, oh my God, are you guys going to just release them individually? And will they be available outside of the shows, or are they always going to be convention exclusives? And we said, oh, you know what? We should just go ahead and release this individually. So we actually have Hikaru and Roy Folker coming out. Let's see, can you see that? Yeah. So these two are coming out in the retro packaging. This I'm hoping to have by the end of Christmas or before Christmas, near the end of the year. And then the other three new ones that we'll release for spring, obviously, is Miria in the vintage packaging, 80s package, Max Sterling.
Wow.
And the standard VF1A. I put Lisa here because that's the way I remember her. The packaging had Lisa on it. So.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, those are all coming out as far as new transformable. Those are 1/100 scale. And what else is there? I showed you the Macross stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much what we have lined up right now. We are thinking about working on some new stuff, but for what we planned between now and the spring of next year, that's pretty much it.
That's a lot still. I mean, 35 years on, you still got such a major base of products for the characters. I don't think you've done action figures before in that scale. Is that correct?
Yes, we're not in this scale. We've had a great success with the 4-inch collection. I mean, I think it really started with the Naruto franchise. So we were doing Naruto 4-inch figures originally, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. And a lot of the fans now are just those small nostalgic 3 3/4 4-inch figures are making a comeback. Sure. And what better property to have that nostalgia than an 80s brand like Robotech? So we thought, hey, let's do that. Kind of reminds us of the Matchbox days when Matchbox was doing it.
Yeah.
But ours obviously are much well sculpted and very nicely articulated.
Yeah, exactly. I remember those Matchbox figures back in the day. That's so crazy. Tommy, talk a little bit about other licensees that you have. We know we're talking about Titan Comics has a comic book line. Toy Nominee and Icon Heroes have collectibles. Is there anything else that we should be keeping our eye out for this year from other licensees?
Yeah, so there's also Udon. They published a Macross art book that was really well received. There were fans who were trying to track down Robotech Art 1. It's a highly collectible art book of the entire Robotech series, but it was produced in a hurry back in the 80s, and it was not a complete art book. Whereas Udon, they spent quite a bit of time and research going through all of our original model sheets that we had for Macross when Robotech was released back in the 80s. And these were provided by Tatsunoko. And they had actually found some bits and pieces that had not been published before. And that art book that they released was as thick as Robotech Art 1, even though it just had the first third of the series, not the whole series. So
I remember that book. I had that one.
Yeah. So that was a big hit. And now they're just wrapping up, putting the finishing touches on the Southern Cross, the middle saga, and they want to complete Mosvita by the end of the year. So they're on an aggressive schedule to get this out. Fans are going to get a really big kick out of this, because especially more so with Southern Cross, because even though Macross fans have gotten all sorts of source material all over the place, Southern Cross is like that forgotten middle series where, except for super passionate fans, it's really hard to find original art for it. If you go on auctions in Japan, anytime something from Southern Cross turns up, the auctions just go crazy because there's so little of it. And so I think Udon is going to really hit a market that really wants to see more of this material. And then let's see, we also have our role-playing game licenses. Solar Flare Games have done the card games, and we have Strange Machines Games, who have been producing the role-playing games. They've been doing incredible work. We also have Coleco, who did the miniature tabletop video games. And it's basically a port of the classic Robotech Macross Saga game. And that's been very successful. And now
Coleco is still around?
Yes, Coleco is still around. So they've actually been miniaturizing a lot of these classic arcade games, such as Galaxian and Pac-Man, into these little tiny arcade games that are rechargeable over USB that you can have on your tabletop.
Oh, cool.
And we also have a new partner as well. This is Galaxy Patrol games. Well, actually, recently they just merged with Telltale, which came out of bankruptcy court. And so they are working on a new port of Robotech game. This was originally for the Game Boy Advance. They're going to port it to a new modern platform. I don't want to steal their thunder. I'll let them announce which platform it's from, and so all the fans can go, "What? It's going to be ported to that?" But
cool, yeah.
This is something that they're wrapping up, and we're just proud of the work that they put into this, making this happen.
George, I think that you have the best finger on the pulse of the collector's market for Robotech over these last 20 years. Why do you think it's so still so popular, especially when you keep making like kind of the same characters over and over again? But 20 years, that's a long time. I mean, are they the same collectors from the 80s? Are they the kids of those collectors? Talk a little bit about, who are your Robotech buyers today?
Well, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because, doing it for 20 years, we've had the opportunity to kind of service two different generations. Obviously, the generation that, grew up with watching the TV shows like ourselves in the 80s. And I think when we launched our Robotech Masterpiece Collection, fans really picked up on that because they were like, oh my gosh, I had one of these 155 scales when I was a kid, and it was reminiscent of that, triggering that memory that they had. And
we had money to buy it now.
Yes, money to buy it now. And it wasn't cheap. I think we sold those Masterpiece collections for like $80 or $100 retail. But fast forward just 2 years ago, we came out with the Micronian collection. And that was, not 155 scale, but that was 1/100 scale. And we decided to use the original artwork that we put on the spine of the books, back on the original Masterpiece, just on the sides of it. So I think here, maybe if I just lift up my thing, you could see this. So if you can see the Masterpiece original books up here,
yeah.
Just 2 years ago, we came out with the Micronian collection in a window box. And those, we just used the same artwork. Yes, they're not in the patented, book packaging, but fans who bought that, coincidentally, remember the Masterpiece books. And we got contacted by several fans who said, oh, I was just like 15 when you came out with those Masterpiece books. And I couldn't buy it.
I don't have $100 back then, right?
but later, as I started working, I bought it secondhand, and now I have kids and my own son. Obviously, I don't let my son touch my Masterpiece books. But thank you for coming out with those Micronian collections, because now I can buy that for my son, and now we play together. So I was like, wow, that is so interesting to hear. That there's always a refresh. I think the generations, even myself, they can't let go of it. And they kind of influence their children, now reintroducing it back to them. And I think that's why it's so vital what Harmony Gold is doing and Tommy is doing there at Harmony Gold with Sony, is to really spark another fire again, with hopefully this new, movie. is because I think the introduction would just widen and open the fan base again and introduce it to, you know, like my little nephew who's only 5 years old, who didn't even grow up with it. But if he could be reintroduced to it, you know, it can draw everyone back in.
I'm glad you brought it up, George, because that's the next question. Tommy, let's talk about the Robotech movie with Sony Pictures. What's happening with that project right now?
So this is something that Sony really wants to do. Everybody has been following the Robotech live action movie progress for many years.
Many years.
And unfortunately, you know, to be forthright, it had been in development hell before at a different studio. But that studio deal had expired, and as soon as those whispers of that started to happen, the producers of 300, who are very well acquainted with adapting comic book movies, they couldn't contain themselves. They jumped on those rights right away, and they took those rights with them to Sony. And Sony was very invested in the brand. And this is something that they got Jason Fuchs, the writer for Wonder Woman, on this project.
Wow.
And this is something they have been actively developing. Unfortunately, of course, you know, industry-wide, a lot of the tentpole schedule has been pushed back, but this is something that they're very invested into. And they also have their anime subsidiary, which is Funimation, working with us on the classic merchandising based on the animated series. So we look forward to working closely with, in fact, we are working closely with Funimation right now as we speak.
What, I mean, I know you can't say anything. How about let's ask Pat and George, who is your dream cast to be like Rick Hunter? I'm assuming they're going to start with the Macross saga in the film, but you guys must have your dream cast. Pat, who do you think today's actor? Because I remember when it came out, George and I talked about this like over 10 years ago. Tobey Maguire was going to be Rick Hunter. Now that he's too old, he can play Captain Global now. He's so So Pat, who do you think? Because you watch a lot of these CW shows, because you do a lot of these CW things. Maybe you're going to suggest Grant Gustin or something like that to be Rick Hunter. Who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, now you got to look at somebody who's pretty young, and I mean, I would think they'd want a big name attached to it. Someone like maybe Tom Holland. You know, he seems pretty popular right now. I think he's doing he's playing Nathan Drake, right, coming up?
Yep, something.
And you know, so he's still pretty young, and he's a pretty big name. I would think he'd be a good fit for Rick.
Yeah, he is a good candidate for.
Yeah. For Mid-May, I'm not sure. I mean, you probably want somebody, who can sing, who's young. I don't know. They could go after one of those Disney stars or whatever. They all can sing.
They're asking the wrong audience here. We're all too old to figure this out. How about George? How about you? When 20 years ago, who would
you're
cast
asking
to
cast some
young
people.
Oh my God, 20 years ago?
Like when you were talking about it before, like I mean, you must have had some.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been Tobey Maguire though.
Yeah.
I just vaguely remember going, oh my gosh, he was so interested in wanting to play the part of Rick Hunter, and I'm thinking, would he be a good Rick Hunter?
Yeah.
You know, looking back right now, I honestly, Casey, I wouldn't know, and I don't want to jinx anybody new. I am just happy and content that Sony is willing to produce a new film.
It's funny that we both said the Spider-Man actors as Rick Hunter too.
Yeah.
Tommy, can you give us any? How about you? Do you have a dream? I mean, I guess you don't want to jinx it either.
Well, yes, that's at the discretion of the director and producer. So, I will, faithfully support all their decisions.
Yeah, sure. But it'd be great to see.
I'm sure it's in good hands, you know. So I think whoever they cast is going to do it justice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time too. I think the technology's gotten to the point where we're going to see some amazing dog fights to transform and fight, and the FDF1 will look amazing when it transforms. Like all these kind of things. I feel like it's probably good that it waited this long to come out, because you really want it to be done, as authentically as possible. And I know the three of you are going to be like, when you watch it, you'll be like, no, they put that in there old. They missed that, right?
Yeah, I think this is a good time to be a fan because decades ago, there were filmmakers who didn't take comic adaptations seriously. And so you would see a lot of train wrecks come to the screen. You know, you would wonder, did this director even watch the series?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, now you have directors who have grown up on these series. And I think that's the key difference.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap this all up, George, what kind of memories or what kind of things do you want to see in the future for Robotech? Will you still be a licensee 20 years from now? And we'll be sitting around doing this in 2040, and you'll be like, "Oh, I've done Rick Hunter's Veritech like 1,000 times now."
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been so blessed to continue to, you know, work with Harmony Gold and Robotech, and I really do hope, you know, whether it's part of the movie or with the classic original franchise, that I'm still somehow stay true and be part of that. You know, I don't know. To be honest, there is still other items that I've produced in the past, and I said to myself, wow, it'd be great if maybe we redid this, or maybe reintroduce and make something new again. But I'm excited. I think with like all the Robotech fans is to see the new modern conceptualization and the live action, you know, designs of the movie. So yeah, I don't know. I'm on here for the long road. So hopefully the fans still will support it. And hopefully this COVID-19 doesn't kill us.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
How about
You know,
Pat?
George, you're actually the longest active licensee remaining, I believe. So yeah, you've taken that crown at this point.
Oh, woo! Thanks.
How about you,
George
Pat?
is
Are you gonna take the crown from George?
I think George would agree. I think we're both lucky to be doing what we're doing. You know, we're doing what we enjoy, and it's always awesome to see the support of the fans. It's awesome to have people like Tom to work with, you know, people like you, Casey, who also support it. And it's just, you know, we hope to continue to be doing it as long as we can, and as long as the fans will support it.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time today, and we'll put a link at the bottom, I guess, to be able to get these exclusive toys that both Toy Nominee and Icon Heroes are showing. And we're going to keep up to date with whatever Tommy has about the movie in the next little while.
Oh yeah, I wanted to add one more thing. So even though Comic-Con has been canceled, our very own Steve Yoon from Harmony Gold is actually going down to San Diego to check out how the San Diego Convention Center is doing. And so we'll have some footage that you can cut into this if you want to talk about the segue into.
I've been to San Diego when it's non-Comic-Con, and it's dead. Like it's empty.
I know,
whether it's COVID or not.
I mean, but it's yeah. So it's just amazing, the night and day difference.
Yeah.
It feels weird being in the gas lamp when there's no Comic-Con. I've done that several times. I remember one year I stayed at the Omni, which is right across, and it just doesn't feel the same because it's just nothing going on there.
Yeah.
George, give us one of your anecdotes too, because you've been to every Comic-Con and you've always had Toy Nominee has a huge booth there. I mean, this must be a super crushing blow to you this year, the first time you've missed it in I don't know how many decades, right?
Yeah,
I know George. I know George has been there when Comic-Con was just tables and actual comic books, not even toys.
Comics? What?
My very first Comic-Con actually in San Diego is when they moved into the convention center, which was in 1991. And Dave, a friend of mine back then, Dave and I took a table out and we shared a table. So it was only I think it was 3 or 4 aisles in Hall A. It was a very boutique, small show. And then 92, I decided, I'm going to take my own table. And we kind of grew from 93, 94, 95. I ended up getting a booth, I think, in 94. And then, you know, now we grew from 100 square feet to 1,800 square feet.
Oh, wow.
Comic-Con just won't give us any more space. We have our own island. And they're like, you're maxed out, George. That's all.
They don't have any more space, though, right?
Yeah, no more space. But doing it for what, let's see, 91 to now, this year, if we had the show next week, would have been our 29th Comic-Con. 29 years at SDCC. But a part of me is somewhat relieved because the show is very stressful. And although we won't have the opportunity to meet the fans and talk to them firsthand and showcase all of the new stuff that we're going to be releasing, we have a cultural responsibility to keep, because of this pandemic. I totally understand why the show isn't going on. And so we truthfully respect that. But like anyone, I think all of us would love to be at the show. And I hope the fans can still continue to support us with the exclusives that we had planned. And we hope that, things will clear out and we can see everyone again next year at the 2021 Comic-Con. That'll be our 30th anniversary or 30th show at San Diego. So I really, really hope we don't miss that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
George and I are
a big party.
neighbors. George and I are actually neighbors at San Diego Comic-Con. We go to each other's booths to hide.
Take a break, right? To relax from all the stuff.
George is who I go to when I need a vacuum cleaner or supplies.
The great thing
Remember
about
those days, George, when we used to print out receipts and then we'd go to each other's booths asking if we had any more receipt tape?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. It's great that we can do this panel online. There's nobody waiting to come in and take over the Hall H because we're still here and we're doing it online.
Oh yeah, and before we wrap, one thing I also think is very important to acknowledge is it's using the old phrase "standing on the shoulders of giants." Is even with Carl Masick putting all these 3 series together and wrangling all the talent to make Robotech happen, it still wouldn't have started if it wasn't for all the staff at Tatsunoko and all the individual design staff who put the 3 different series together. And these are folks like Shoji Kawamori and Shinji Aramaki and Mikimoto as well. Without all their hard work that put the component Japanese series together, Robotech wouldn't exist. And so I think for that, they definitely need to be recognized for breaking ground with anime. I mean, it didn't just change anime in Japan, it changed the way people look at animation around the world.
Oh, definitely agree with that. And that's a good little plug for our other talk that we're having with Icon Heroes. We're talking with the original voice cast of the show and their 35th anniversary with them together. And that's going to be a good time to have as well. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope to see you all in real life again sooner than later. But it's been a great talk. I hope all the Robotech fans who have been listening to this have got something really out of it. And we will see you hopefully in real life for the 36th anniversary of Robotech.
Thanks for having us,
everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you guys.
All right.